The winter season is here, whether you love the cold, the snow, or if you're counting down the days until spring. The weather is always an interesting topic of conversation. We have a lot to share with you in your Winter Weather Handbook.
Eyewitness Weather presents a special report on staying safe and braving the cold in northeastern and central Pennsylvania. This is your Winter Weather Handbook, featuring Josh Hodell and the Eyewitness Weather team.
Snow and rain and everything in between. Meteorologist Logan Westrope explains the different types of precipitation that we get during winter.
Here across northeastern and central Pennsylvania, we're used to several types of winter events, anything from ice to snow. We're used to it here across the region. We'll first kind of to break it down for you, tell you why we get these certain types of frozen precipitation during the winter time. And we'll start off with rain. So rain essentially is when we have the snowflakes falling from the cloud. This often happens during the summer months as well. But then it reaches a warmer pocket of air during the middle and lower levels of the atmosphere. So those snowflakes eventually melt and they turn into raindrops. So that's what we commonly get as rain. Then we have freezing rain, more common during the winter, obviously, as it's a little bit colder. So those snowflakes eventually fall from the cloud. They're still snowflakes. Then they meet a pocket of warmer air at the middle to lower levels of the atmosphere. So they change back to raindrops. But then right at the surface is where those temperatures are at or below freezing, say along the sidewalk or the pavement. And those temperatures are at the freezing mark. So those raindrops essentially freeze right onto contact. So that gives us black ice. And also freezing rain is one of the most treacherous conditions to drive in during the winter since you don't have much traction. Then we talk about sleet. So sleet eventually is the snowflakes falling from the cloud. They reach a shallow pocket of warmer air that eventually changes those snowflakes back into raindrops. And then that colder air right at the lower levels of the atmosphere and the surface. So essentially those raindrops refreeze, and that's what you can often hear kind of pinging off your windshield in your car during the winter months. And then eventually, obviously, we have to talk about snow. So those snowflakes continue to fall from the cloud all the way from the top of the cloud right to the bottom, and that's what gives us that snow, is those temperatures in the whole entire layer of the atmosphere are at or below freezing. Now, what makes it kind of tricky here across northeastern and central Pennsylvania is elevation. So we have instances sometimes where the valleys are seeing rain and the higher elevations are seeing snow. So that's one of the key factors that we have to look at when it comes to winter forecasting.
You've often seen our weather team talk about snow squall warnings. Squalls can create a dangerous situation, almost like a thunderstorm, as meteorologist Thomas Battle explains.
Weather watches and warnings can be confusing, with numerous types. There are several you should know for winter.
In Pennsylvania, a winter storm watch or warning will be issued for the potential of at least 6 inches of snow in a 12-hour period or 8 inches of snow in a 24-hour period. Now, that's a guideline, I gotta say. There are other factors in a winter storm. It's not just the amount of snow.
Some factors, such as precipitation type, are key.
Heavy, wet snow with sleet, I mean, that can be very impactful, even if it's 5 or 4 inches. Whereas, 7 inches of very fluffy, light snow, maybe that's not so impactful. Add some wind to that, though, and now you got impact again.
While tornadoes and severe southeast storms often get a lot of attention, they aren't the only danger.
What kills more people on an average year? More than 800 people in an average year. It's winter vehicle accidents. What causes more accidents often is just the small stuff. The 1 inch of snow that people aren't necessarily expecting.
One way the National Weather Service is hoping to reduce these accidents is by issuing snow squall warnings.
When we are expecting visibility to drop way below a quarter mile, whiteout conditions, very sudden change, it's sort of like a summertime downpour, except it's all snow.
Snow squalls often come on quickly, but wireless emergency alert messages for them should go to your phone if you lie in the path of one.
No matter how in control you feel of your own vehicle, you cannot control what other people are doing. And in the case of a snow squall, you may run into a completely uncontrollable situation.
Pellerito says that if you see a snow squall warning issued, to just wait a few minutes for it to pass, and if you're on the road, to pull over safely if possible. For the Winter Weather Handbook, I'm meteorologist Thomas Battle, 2822 Eyewitness News.
Whether it's snow, sleet, or just plain rain, remember you can always find your forecast online at pahomepage.com or by downloading the Eyewitness Weather app. Black ice ahead. What you need to know about the winter weather road concern when you travel across northeastern and central Pennsylvania. And PennDOT crews are ready to tackle whatever Mother Nature has in store for us. It's all ahead on this edition of the Winter Weather Handbook.
You're watching a special Eyewitness Weather presentation, your Winter Weather Handbook.
Winter weather presents a lot of concern while driving, but one of the biggest dangers we hear about is black ice. Meteorologist Logan Westrope explains.
Here across northeastern and central Pennsylvania, as we get into the winter season, we have to worry about when those air temperatures, or especially right at the surface, are at or below the freezing mark. So that gives us the concern for black ice. So what exactly is that? We'll explain that by saying it's a very thin layer of ice that accumulates on the pavement, say of a roadway or a sidewalk. Now the transparency of it kind of helps it to kind of be a little bit difficult to see. And this is one of the concerns that we have, especially during the morning time when the air temperatures usually are at their coldest. This is when we can see those concerns for black ice. Now there's three scenarios that we're going to talk about today. The first one is, let's say we have a major winter storm. We had an accumulating snowfall. It warmed up the next day. The sun is out. Those temperatures are back into, let's say, the 40s, and those snowpacks begin to melt. So those puddles eventually start to kind of pile up on the roadways. You start to see the pavements very wet. But then at night, though, those air temperatures continue to fall right at or below the freezing mark. So any of those puddles of water can eventually freeze right onto contact. Another concern we have is just when we're dealing with rain. This is often when we see freezing rain scenarios, as when the rain continues to fall, the air temperature is at or below freezing, especially right on the contact with the pavement. So that will often create some very slick spots, and freezing rain is one of the most dangerous things to travel in during the winter months. As we look at another scenario is when we also have fog, the tiny little water droplets that will instantly freeze onto contact as well, and that will create that very thin layer of ice that we have to be careful when we're driving too. And also another thing that we typically see during the winter times is those signs right before you get to the bridge, is that the bridges freeze or ice over before the roadways. And we'll show you with this diagram, the temperature of the air continues to fall into the 20s, and usually the bridge temperature also follows pretty quickly behind. You can see here it's right at the mid-20s. The road temperature, though, still has some of the heat from the earth, so that takes a little bit of a longer time for the road temperature to follow with the bridge temperature. So that's why often, let's say we have that light rain falling, the road temperature is still above freezing, so the pavement's still pretty wet, but then with that bridge temperature below the freezing mark into the 20s, that's why we often see those bridges starting to ice over, and that's one of the things that we have to be careful when we're driving here during the winter months.
WBRE 28, WYOU 22 Eyewitness News reporter Julie Dunphy has done her fair share of winter travel stories. She spoke with PennDOT officials about getting ready to salt, cinder, and plow.
No matter the size of the storm or how busy the roads, PennDOT crews have to make sure that they're prepped and ready to go this winter season.
Depending on what kind of a storm is coming, will determine what our preparation is for the storm, if it's a snow event, an ice event, but we are prepared for whatever is coming our way.
PennDOT's goal of every winter weather event is to make sure that the roads are manageable. Whether it's snow, ice, or sleet, PennDOT says they're prepared.
And we're ready for winter whenever it decides to come. We'll go out prior to a storm coming to make sure that there's a layer of salt on the roads.
As soon as snow starts to fall and stick, plowing begins.
Depending on the type of storm that's coming and where it is coming to, that's when we decide where are we sending our teams, what action are we going to take, and overall we just talk about the planning process.
While PennDOT crews are prepared for future storms, they want drivers to be prepared too. To make sure your car is ready to take on the snow, check your tires and windshield wipers and top off your fluids. You also need to prepare an emergency kit for your car. Pack a blanket, phone charger, water, medications, and anything else you might need in case your car becomes disabled.
We also like to tell people to know before you go. Go to 511pa.com. Prior to heading out, you can check out the cameras, you can see how the road conditions are there any road closures, and you can also see where our plows are.
For the Winter Weather Handbook, Julie Dunphy, 2822 Eyewitness News.
As the air cools from winter, lakes take a little bit longer to do so. This scientific principle feeds lake effect snow. Meteorologist Thomas Battle has a look at this weather phenomenon in Pennsylvania.
Lake effect snow is a sometimes dangerous form of weather that happens often across Pennsylvania.
When you have an Arctic air mass moving over water that's still, say, 40, 45 degrees, it's as if you had a pot of water on a stove and you're boiling it. All that steam comes up, all that moisture, the energy. And so with that boiling action that you get, the clouds are able to generate, they rise, they generate, and they precipitate.
Our area sees lake effect snow thanks to a variety of factors.
You get moisture contributions not just from Lake Erie or not just from Lake Ontario, but all the way up. You can get lake to lake to lake connections. You get Lake Superior adding moisture, Lake Huron adding moisture, Lake Michigan. They all can kind of combine. Sometimes you get a cold front too, which can kind of squeeze all that together.
Pennsylvania has no shortage of mountains or valleys to influence the weather.
Lake effect moisture can travel, but then it starts to hit some mountains, right? And so that wind just sort of bunches up. It bunches up and causes the clouds to sort of pile up. And so even that can help generate lake effect snow showers from moisture even hundreds of miles away.
And warmer weather doesn't mean less lake effect snowfall.
So we've had a slow start to the winter as far as temperatures, being on the warmer side and stuff. But remember, that also means that the Great Lakes themselves are a bit warmer than average and thus more capable to generate lake effect snowfall.
Your best defense while driving is to simply take it slow and give yourself some extra time. For the Winter Weather Handbook, I'm meteorologist Thomas Battle, 2822 Eyewitness News.
And don't forget, you can always get the latest forecast and winter weather alerts on the Eyewitness Weather app. Just download it and make sure it's on your phone. We are very proud of our Weather Rate seal of approval.
I'm really happy to say that WBRE and WYLU, the Eyewitness News team, has come out on top of our accuracy findings for the last 13 years in a row.
Coming up, we'll learn exactly what this means for you and us. And the number one question I am asked, what will winter be like? The Winter Weather Outlook is ahead.
You're watching a special Eyewitness Weather presentation, your Winter Weather Handbook.
The Eyewitness Weather team is quite proud of our Weather Rate seal of approval. 2822 Eyewitness News reporter Mark Hiller explains the importance of this rating.
They are there night and day, year-round, forecasting the weather for Eyewitness News viewers. This team of talented meteorologists is providing a service considered tops yet again by the independent research company Weather Rate.
I'm really happy to say that WBRE and WYLU, the Eyewitness News team, has come out on top of our accuracy findings for the last 13 years in a row.
That's no small feat, according to Weather Rate president and founder Bruce Fixman. He and his team of meteorologists pore over the television forecasting work of the 95 largest TV markets, including northeastern and central Pennsylvania.
Of course, we're looking at high and low temperatures, but we also look at sky cover, precipitation, the timing of the precipitation, strong winds, dense fog, severe thunderstorms, and in Northeast PA, very important, Mark, we also look at snow accumulation and ice as well.
Talk about touching all the bases.
Like I said, it's comprehensive.
Providing those accurate weather forecasts is far from easy, given the nuances Pennsylvania's geography presents, from its mountains and valleys to its proximity to bodies of water.
You actually have coastal influences being so close to the ocean on the east side of the state. And then when you get to the west side of the state, you've got, of course, the Great Lakes, and that has a big impact as well. But I think the trickiest part of forecasting weather in Pennsylvania, as you mentioned, is the valleys. Those can be tough. You get those inversions, and it leads to some pollution and some weird temperature things going on. And it's hard to forecast that rain-snow line, that mix. It's tough.
But whether it's high pressure or low pressure, cold fronts or warm fronts, the Eyewitness Weather team is up to the task, poring over weather data and providing the most accurate forecast possible. Forecasting accuracy recognized with the coveted Weather Rate seal of approval 13 years straight.
They earned it. It's not a lottery or a contest that you go out and you win something just by luck. It's day in, day out. It's 365 days a year that we collect the data and analyze it. So that's definitely a title that they've earned.
For the Winter Weather Handbook, Mark Hiller, 2822 Eyewitness News.
And remember, our forecast and all of the information in this show can be found online at pahomepage.com. What can we expect this winter? I will take a look at the winter outlook and turning snow into something sweet to eat. We are whipping up something special in the kitchen.
You're watching a special Eyewitness Weather presentation, your Winter Weather Handbook.
And now it's time to take a look at what you can expect for this winter. There are always a lot of players involved when making a winter weather prediction, but the biggest driver this year is going to be La Nina. And in this scenario, that creates a really active jet stream with a lot of cold air across the northern part of the country. And across the south, it's typically warm and it's typically dry, and this can extend up the eastern seaboard. When you start talking about those coastal storms, it really depends on the track of that storm and where the cold air is. If it's close enough to the coast, we get that wintry mix scenario. Snow, some ice, and even some plain rain. And if it happens to be a little bit farther south, well, the cold air is in place across most of Pennsylvania, and that can lead to a lot of snow. So for this winter, we are expecting it to be overall on the mild side, or at least a little bit above average. Now, we will get those occasional shots of Arctic air, but I think they'll be short-lived. But you can also expect big temperature swings. 50s one day, 20s the next. The pattern will likely remain stormy and active. And of course, there's always the potential for a couple of big storms, but we think we're going to see more of those mixed storms, those storms with a wintry mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. That's what we're expecting for the balance of winter. Now, in terms of our snow forecast, the averages are in the middle. 33 inches in Williamsport, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton 46, Mount Pocono about 62 inches. We are expecting snowfall this season to be near, if not a little bit below average. So for central Pennsylvania, about 20 to 30 inches is in the forecast. For the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area, we're expecting about 30 to 40 inches of snow. And across the Poconos, about 50 to 60 inches. The key is we do need to get a couple of big storms for that to happen, but sometimes all of those players don't come together as nicely as we would expect. And of course, the best way to get winter weather alerts and to stay on top of your forecast is with the Eyewitness Weather app. Download it right now, today. We will wrap up the Severe Weather Handbook with a recipe for winter.
You're watching a special Eyewitness Weather presentation, your Winter Weather Handbook.
We are ending our Winter Weather Handbook on a sweet note. When life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. When Mother Nature gives us snow, some people make snow cream. Here's 2822 Eyewitness News reporter Nicole Rogers with something you might not expect from the weather department, a recipe.
Snow cream, what a fun tradition in the winter, and of course we're going to make it for you today. Let's take a look. So first off, you obviously need some snow. Now, I don't have some snow on hand, so you can substitute shaved ice if you need to. Now we're going to do 8 cups of this. You're going to pour it all into a bowl. So I got this here. Now I'm going to just eyeball this, so it's not exact, but we're going to do what we got today. Next up, you're going to do 1/3 cup of sugar. So you're just going to sprinkle that on top. Bada bing, bada boom. What a fun thing to do with your kids. And just when it snows, we're all inside anyways. Next up, we got vanilla. You're going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. If you can see my little fancy measurer here. All right, we're going to drizzle this vanilla right on top. And then you're going to drizzle it all around. There we go. Oh yeah, we got this vanilla going. Now, next up, you're going to do 1 cup of milk. This is the best part. You're going to drizzle that right on top of your snow. And there we go.
Then you stir it up and pop it in the freezer.
We got some sprinkles you can always do. That's always a fun thing. But it's snow cream. This is all you got to do. You can add sprinkles if you want. And you can just enjoy it with your friends and family. So for the Winter Weather Handbook, Nicole Rogers.
We have that recipe online. I kind of wish she would have saved the weather department some. Thank you for watching the Winter Weather Handbook. Remember, we are here to keep you up to date and informed about the changing weather on air, online on pahomepage.com, and on the Eyewitness Weather app. Enjoy the season and stay safe.